for the format, yeah. Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's really great to see so many colleagues joining us for our Leading by Example workshop, where we will be diving into success stories on synergies in the transport and energy sector. My name is Rosalinde van der Vlies, and I'm moderating the session for you here this morning. And also a warm welcome to all our colleagues who are joining us online. I think synergies is really a very fashionable term that we have been using a lot. You are hearing it a lot. But what does it actually mean, and why do we always talk about it? Well, for me, if I have to explain synergy concept, for me it's really about connecting the dots. So making connections between different EU funding programs that exist for research and innovation, making connections between the funding programs that exist at the European level and at the national and regional level, and making connections between public and private sector investments. And I'm extremely pleased that this morning we have a terrific lineup of panelists who have success stories in each of these type of synergies. But before we will be meeting our panelists and hearing from them, it's my big pleasure that we also would like to start with a short video just to warm us up for this session. And the video is on another type of synergies, because the video is showing synergies between different stakeholders in Europe, and in particular between the EU and Africa. So the video is about the Energetica project, and I'm not going to say anything more. I would just think, let's play the video.
Energy. We use it every day to see, cook, or charge our phone. Energy is also used to grow our food or move across cities and lands. Access to sustainable energy is crucial for resilient economies and communities. Yet, 80% of the world energy is produced by fossil fuels, which are polluting and based on limited resources. Many people worldwide have limited access to energy, and more than 10% of the world population do not have access to electricity at all. Water, energy, and food are interconnected resources under increasing pressure due to climate change and its consequences on resources, people, and ecosystems. Innovative, sustainable technological solutions integrating renewable energy technologies need to be found and implemented to tackle these challenges. Energica aims at addressing these issues by accelerating the uptake of renewable energy in local contexts. Energica is a European-funded project under the H2020 program, aiming at fostering green transition and energy access in urban and rural Africa. 11 African-based partners and 17 European-based partners are gathered for the project. The two continents are partnering to design applicable solutions on energy access and sustainable development. Renewable energy technologies and local communities are at the center of the project. Energica demonstrates the efficient implementation of renewable energy technologies to match local context. To provide relevant solutions, Energica's methodology is built from the local needs in energy and resources. Adapted solutions are co-constructed through energy transition boards, which manage integrated community energy systems at community scale. To develop the technologies necessary to attain these objectives, 3 demonstration sites have been chosen. In rural Madagascar, innovative technologies are developed for a better access to electricity. In peri-urban Sierra Leone, biogas systems are elaborated to produce energy. In urban Kenya, electric mobility solutions are put in place. By developing solutions that are based on renewable energy and studying projected climate change impact in Africa, Energica will strengthen the joint EU-AU climate change and sustainable energy effort, improve health and social conditions in the demonstration sites and beyond. Energica is expected to directly impact positively more than 1,500 local stakeholders across Africa. Learn more about Energica on energica-h2020.eu and keep up to date with our latest
I think the lady wanted to say, please visit us online. Okay, great. So this is, another example of synergies of how we are basically also connecting the dots between the European and the African continent. But now it's my big pleasure to introduce our panelists of today that are really leading by example of how synergies can work in practice. And it's my great pleasure that we have with us Axel Krijn. Maybe Axel wave to everybody, that's Axel. Axel Krijn is the Executive Director of the Clean Aviation Joint Undertaking that is funded by Horizon Europe. Then we have Konstantin Borginov from Bulgaria, ladies and gentlemen. And Konstantin is from the Heidelberg Materials in Bulgaria. And you will tell us in a minute everything about the UNRAF project, that is a leading example for synergies. And we also have Mr. Christoph Kuhn from the European Investment Bank with us. So a warm welcome to our panelists. Maybe a bit of applause, that would be really good. Welcome. Okay, Konstantin, so maybe starting with you. I understand that you are responsible for this UNRAF project, which has developed the complete value chain on carbon capture and utilization and storage in a cement plant in Bulgaria. And you have received for this project consecutive funding, both from Horizon 2020 and then for the Innovation Fund. So this is a very good example of synergies where a European program for research and development first invested in a project and then the investment was taken forward through the Innovation Fund. So Konstantin, could you tell us a bit more about your project and also how you actually managed to receive this consecutive funding from different EU programs?
First of all, thank you very much. Good morning to everyone in the audience, and thank you very much for the invitation. The project UNRAF itself is extremely complex and new to the industry in general, for the cement industry. As cement industry is one of the hard-to-abate industries, we are first line of decarbonization in Europe, and this is an obligation which we took and we accepted a long time ago. Going to carbon capture step, which is the last step to become fully decarbonized and to introduce fully decarbonized cement on the market, we fully understand the importance to go in this way. So I will try to keep it short because otherwise I can easily fill up the whole panel even to jump out of the topic. So UNRAF is the first carbon capture project funded by the Innovation Fund in Eastern Europe, which is a huge obligation. And we understand the importance of this project because we are paving the way for the whole industry in our region of Europe. What makes it a success story? In UNRAF project, we are introducing an innovative way to capture up above 95% of the CO2 generated by the plant by mixing two existing technologies in a way that they will be more efficient and to get better financial impact on our operation and to stay competitive in general. UNRAF itself did not accept financing by Horizon, but of course, number of technologies which were used initially were there. And what is the difference? I would say Horizon started more as a fund oriented or more academic and startup and technical companies focusing to develop certain technology, but the industry stayed aside. And in order to connect the dots, we fully understand that Innovation Fund is the next level and the next stage, which is trying somehow to bring in the industry, because the industry is the main generator of CO2. And of course, if we want to keep the European industry competitive and in place, we have to do the best to connect all the dots and to get the fantastic results, which we bet on.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Konstantin. And I think I also have lots of questions in particular of what's next. But let's first move to you, Axel. So as Executive Director of the Clean Aviation Joint Undertaking, you have a big responsibility because you are paving the way towards climate neutral aircraft development. So this is really very, very important. We are all waiting for that because, you know, it would be great to be able to fly and be climate neutral at the same time. With the joint undertaking, you're also managing a really impressive amount of money to be investing in these low carbon solutions, 4.1 billion euros, so that's really a lot. But I understand that you're also focusing on developing synergies, in particular with the investments that are being made at the national and regional level. So maybe you can share a bit of insights in what you're actually doing and how you are doing this.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. You were speaking about connecting the dots, and that's what aviation literally is about, connecting the dots. But let me speak a bit about, as you said, clean aviation. Aviation is a very important industry and a very important sector for Europe. It creates 13 million jobs in Europe and more than 4% of European GDP. And it's growing, which is good, but it's also growing its emission, which is not so good. And that's why clean aviation was created about 3 years ago. And as you said, we are focusing on developing technologies to make aircraft more efficient. And together with the use of sustainable aviation fuels and hydrogen, we are going to make those aircraft reducing their CO2 emissions by 80 to 100%, depending a bit on the fuel which is going to be used. And you said 4.1 billion altogether is quite a significant amount of money for this joint undertaking, this public-private partnership. But when we started, we calculated that we altogether need 12 billion. And we were not daring to ask the Commission for 8 additional billion. So we were looking at where to find those 8 billion. And those 8 billion are not missing. They are somewhere there. They are there in regions in Europe. They are there in member states. And they are there also in privately funded initiatives. So basically, the 4 and the 8 makes 12. And we were managing our 4. But now the question is how to connect the 8. So we developed process. We set up teams in order to identify areas where that research for those 8 billions is happening. So we reached out to regions all over Europe, also to member states. And you find quickly that there is an ambition, there is a vision, but those projects which are being generated are working in isolation. They are not connected neither sometimes from the regions to the member states, nor from the regions or the member states to Europe. So when defining that process, it became quite obvious that it was not easy to go down that route because it's easy to decide that you want to do it. It's probably also easy to sign a memorandum of commitment, which we have been doing with a couple of regions, but then to really harvest those benefits and going into those technical details means that you need to align projects, interdependencies between projects, and then the real technical work starts, and it's very time consuming. But I think we had some good successes. For example, we reached an agreement with Clean Hydrogen, our partner, public-private partnership, and we have very good alignment now in terms of technical work, real work share, where some projects are being developed under the Clean Hydrogen partnership, and then results are being handed over and are being demonstrated in our joint undertaking. And we have done the same now with 3 quite big and interesting regions in Europe, Campania and Piedmont in Italy and Occitanie in France. We just recently signed a memorandum of commitment, and now the technical work will start in order to make the more than 200 million, which is available at regional funding with those 3 regions alone, to make it complementary to ours. And our ambition is to create one virtual aviation research and innovation project in Europe, and I think we are not on a bad way. But between the 200 and let's say from the 3 regions and the 100 from the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, we are only at 300, and we want to go to 8 billion. So there is still some way to go, but I think we are on a quite good track, and I believe we have all the ingredients to make it successful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Axel. I think that was extremely informative also to understand how you can use these synergies to work together and also pool money from different sources together towards a same project. Because I think, the ambition to have a climate neutral aviation, I think, is probably an ambition that is shared across the European Union. So that's really excellent. And that is a really nice segue to Christophe Koen. So welcome also to you, Christophe. So you are director of the business Planning and Mandate Management Department at the European Investment Bank. And I understand that you are following the EU Catalyst Partnership. So this is another partnership from the Clean Aviation Partnership. It is a joint initiative between the European Commission, the European Investment Bank, and the Breakthrough Energy Catalyst, which is a private investment fund created by Bill Gates. And I think the EU Catalyst Partnership is a very good example of making synergies between not only three different institutions, but also then different funding streams coming both from the public sector and from the private sector. So with this EU Catalyst Partnership, you have been supporting already a few projects, including the Energy Dome project, if I understand correctly, which is a project that is developing long duration energy storage on a solution based on CO2 batteries. And Christophe, I think we are all very curious to learn a bit more about this Catalyst Partnership, and maybe you can tell us also a bit more about this particular project that you are funding.
Thank you very much, and I'm pleased to do. The partnership that we are having with Breakthrough Energy and the European Commission is a partnership that is meant to be a one-stop shop, combining different sources of funding in order to package them in such a way that they can finance complex and large-scale projects. And why is that so important? It's important because when we deal with clean tech energy demonstration projects, they usually have three very challenging features for financing. Firstly, they are normally very large, larger than other projects at an early stage of development. And that in itself is a huge challenge. Secondly, they're risky. They involve technology risk, market risk, and many other risks that are associated to the project. And then, last not least, they usually involve a so-called green premium, meaning that their unit cost is higher than the comparable alternative, gray alternative. Now, these three together usually don't make a convincing case for a typical venture capitalist or even a bank. So what you need in these cases is a smart packaging of different solutions that normally involves concessional finance, so a grant. It should combine equity and equity-type financing because we need sources that are able to absorb high risks. And then also it needs to combine debt, usually at a later stage, but it must be already programmed into the funding plan going forward. So all of that together is very difficult. And what we did together with the Commission when we approached Breakthrough Energy was to say, could we not have a process whereby we look together at projects that we would like to finance and already from the beginning try to package the financing such that it can really catalyze the investment of the project and accelerate that project. Usually what happens then as well is all of a sudden you mobilize private sector capital, because if you come with a convincing packaging that de-risks, that brings down the green premium and is able to be big enough to really be sort of a cornerstone funding partner, usually then it's much easier to bring in the private sector. Energy Dome is a prime example of that. And by the way, it's another good example because Energy Dome was also benefiting from the EIC, from the European Innovation Council, and thereby also combining yet other sources of public funding and bring it together. In this particular case, we committed 60 million euros on a demonstration CO2 battery in Sardinia. Indeed, the largest of its kind. It's up and running. It's very successful already, and we believe in the technology together with Breakthrough Energy. Now, for that project, what is also important, it involves a grant of 35 million euros from Breakthrough Energy. And we have combined that with a venture debt loan. So not equity, but equity type finance that is not diluting the shareholders. And that together then was able to kickstart the project and bring in other sources of financing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christoph. I mean, I really think that this EU Catalyst partnership is quite innovative because, as you said, it brings together these different funding sources, including also then the private sector. And I also think it's really interesting from the European Commission perspective because our contribution to this EU Catalyst partnership comes from Horizon Europe, Innovation Fund, and also EIC. And I think it's really good indeed also for the beneficiaries to have this one-stop shop. Because I would like to get back to you, Konstantin, because what I hear very often from beneficiaries is that it's really difficult because if you want to apply for EU funding, that the rules of the game are different. So if you apply for a Horizon Europe grant, the conditions for submitting a proposal are different from if you are looking for funding, for instance, from Innovation Fund. So I'm really curious to hear from you, Konstantin. Have you encountered indeed, the difficulties, with these different rules of the game for these different EU funding instruments? And also, I'm very curious how you will continue to engage with the public stakeholders, because I think you are now on a pathway to full commercialization. So how do you see the next steps?
Well, this is a billion-dollar question, I would say. And from today's point of view, I would say there is no clear answer. But I will try to sum it up. Judging by our track record in all the programs, obviously there is a way to reach the funding. And if your project is viable, then I would say it's relatively achievable. What makes it more difficult is once you obtain the financing, and then you have to go into the real project. Because today, unfortunately, on the EU level, we have a very well designed policy, which is even furthermore going into that direction. But on the EU member state level, the implementation takes time. And then many of the projects, at least in our sector, are facing the challenge that we got funded. We have to implement a certain project with certain timeline, but unfortunately the local governments and the countries, the EU member states, don't have the legislative framework in place, which sometimes is slowing down the projects and makes it a nightmare to go for commercialization. Yes, one of our projects, because us as a Heidelberg Materials Group, we are running simultaneously around 12 CCUS projects in our industry. The first one will be live in second quarter of next year in Norway, Brevik. And hopefully in 2025 we will be able to introduce the first carbon-free cement worldwide, which is something we're all looking forward.
Excellent. No, thank you very much for these clarifications, and we will be following you and really looking forward indeed to the commercialization of the cement plant. Let me go back to you, Axel, because you mentioned that for the partnership, it's very important to partner up with other entities that invest in research and innovation solution for the climate neutral aviation. I know that there are some EU member states that are quite ambitious on supporting their national industry, their national aviation industry, in the quest to become climate neutral. Why would these stakeholders that have access to big national R&I funds be actually interested to also then join up with the Clean Aviation Partnership?
Yeah, actually that is true, that there is access to funding on regional level as well as on member state level, and not insignificantly as you were describing it right now. But I think there is a big advantage at European level, because what we do at European level is we are working on complete demonstration of integrated systems, demonstration of close to aircraft systems. That's not being done at component level, which is usually the case at member state or at regional level. And what you have as an entity being based at a region or at a member state, when you work at European level, you have access to the best competences all around Europe. So you don't need to work just in your small bubble as a regional or member state bubble, which is small in comparison to the 27 at EU level. And I think this access to competences is an important element. And also, because aviation is a European, if not worldwide endeavor, you get access to become a member of the supply chain, because the supply chain is global. And if you want to be playing at supply chain level, if you want to produce components, systems, subsystems, then you need to work. And usually the work in our program allows people to get to know each other. And we have right now 1,000 entities all across Europe, from bigger industrial entities to SMEs, research institutions, as well as universities connected. And this bubble work on one hand to the wider EU ecosystem work is definitely helping to position those entities in order to become a member of the supply chain. So I think it is complementary. It's not replacing, one is not replacing the other, but it's complementary, and that's exactly what we are focusing on.
That's really great, Axel. I think you have been very convincing in passing the message that we really need the synergies between the EU, national and regional level. I also believe that through the synergies we'll probably accelerate a bit faster all together and also avoid duplications. So I really hope and wish you best of luck to continue with working together with the member states and the regions in order to deliver really zero aircraft for Europeans. When, Axel, can we expect this?
The technology will be ready by 28, 29, and then those aircraft will be offered to the airlines, and the first entry into service of those products will be 2035. But I would hope so that with your support and the support of the community here, we can be maybe a bit more efficient in FP10, not to do it the laborious way we are doing it now retrospectively, which is usually the way Europe likes to do it, but the more upfront, where common vision can be developed, and we can do that more upfront and prepare that better instead of doing it retrospectively. So I think we have all the ingredients, we just need to do it now.
Very good. And speaking about the future, I wanted to ask you, Christophe. I mean, I think the EU Catalyst Partnership, as said before, is quite an innovative instrument. Looking in the future, do you think this partnership could be the start of something bigger? Maybe a model that could be replicated or made bigger for the European Union in the future? And if so, why do you think this would be a very good idea?
So I definitely think that we need to combine better the different sources of funding, and that not only is the combination of equity instruments, debt instruments and grants, but also different sources of the grants, regional funds, central EU funds. To do that, there are two dimensions to it. First of all, there is a value in itself when combining these instruments, because they can then together solve more complex problems at project level. But secondly, we need to bring down bureaucracy and also the time to actually structure these financings, the application process, etc. So there is definitely huge scope for synergy. The Breakthrough Energy and European Commission EIB partnership under the Catalyst is just one example, but I do think that even the EU mandates that we as EIB Group have from the Commission need to better combine the different sources of funding and allow the promoter and the client to have really one journey to get to a comprehensive package and not have parallel streams of applications with repeated due diligence, repeated forms to be filled out, repeated monitoring. This is just not efficient, it's costly, and it delays us, and we don't have time. So we need to be better on this, and my plea, definitely, our plea as EIB Group, will be in the next budget period to be better in this, combine better, be smarter in combination of the different instruments, and be more client-friendly. And I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very powerful messages, and let me thank our panelists for showcasing successes in different types of synergies. And I think also the pathway for the future is very clear. We don't have time. We have no time to be working in silos, be it at EU level, member state level, regional level. We don't have time to have different instruments, with parallel rules of the game. We need to become much better in further connecting the dots in order to be accelerating much faster together in a Team Europe approach. So I would like to ask the audience a big applause for these really inspiring stories. And we have a few seconds left where I would give you these few seconds to take a deep breath and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.